Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Improve Podcast, the official podcast of CLSC Studios. I am your host, Chase Collins, and thank you for joining me on this lovely morning. For those of you who are new here, we are building a community of creatives who are creative at heart, but also have other stuff going on in their lives, like jobs or being parents or going to school or anything in between, But so their creative hobbies are just hobbies right now, and one day we have dreams of turning those into real professional, making our hobbies our profession, and that's the goal, right? That's everyone's goal, I hope. But yeah, if you're interested in something like that, then stick around. We'd love to have you here. I sort of like to use this podcast as sort of an accountability tool for myself, so I can let you all know what projects I got working on, and then you can keep me accountable for those projects, and you can hold yourself accountable for your projects that you share with me, and all that good stuff. Speaking of which, are you using this podcast as an accountability tool? Did you set your goals for this week? Do you have other goals that you want to set? Well, let me know. Or I hope you are. And if you do want to let me know, use the comment section or shoot me an email at theimprovepodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear about them. Yeah, I guess that's it. There's time codes below if you want to jump around. This episode, we have a great bit of goodness going on. I'm providing you all with an update regarding where I've been, what I've been up to. I missed last week. That was the first one I've missed in like a while, so I apologize that I missed that episode. Certainly did not mean to do that. I thought I would be able to do that, but I was on vacation, right? And I thought I was going to be able to record something, but I didn't actually get to it, so my bad. Please forgive me, of course. There's definitely time codes below, so if you want to jump around to some of the more interesting stuff, feel free to do that. I have a ton of updates that I want to give you all. I originally didn't think I had that much to talk about this week, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll skip again, but then I started, let me just write down what I got going on, and then suddenly I had like 2.5 pages of notes. I was like, oh gosh, I guess I have a lot to talk about. This is what happens when I skip a week, right? It's like, I still do stuff, I just don't tell you about it, and now I gotta catch everybody up on all this stuff that I've done. So let me go ahead and roll the intro music, and I'll be right back for the rest of the episode. Thank you. Goodbye. Or see you later.
Improve Podcast. Improve Podcast. Improve Podcast. Improve Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Improve Podcast. No, I'm just kidding. I already did the intro, Chase. What are you thinking? But yeah, so I do want to provide a quick status update, kind of just more of like on the personal side of things. So I have, for these last couple of solo episodes, I've sort of been wrestling with what I'm going to do next. I, had this big lift and this big push to get Touch into a state that I was really happy with it. And I, sent it off to my friends and my family to read, and that was great. And then I was sort of like, well, what do I want to do next? I have, I outlined my next script, but maybe I don't want to work on that. Maybe I need to focus on my, professional goals and my professional career. And if you've been reading between the lines, I don't think I've ever been like the most thrilled with that idea. Of course, I want to be successful in my professional career for sure. Like, no changing that. Of course, I'm going to be successful professionally. No questions about it. But I also, want to turn my hobbies into a profession of some sort. And I don't know if I'll be able to do both of those things to the quality and the caliber that I want without letting something give, if that makes sense. So it's like I'm splitting my time between these two things that really require my full attention if I want to be successful at either of them. And it's just not necessarily working out. I mean, it doesn't mean I can't do both, but I don't know if I want to do both, right? I could make a bunch of excuses about how I can't do both, and like, oh no, it's not possible, like, there's no way. But in my heart of hearts, I know I could do both if I really pushed myself. But I just don't want to, and I'm sorry. I have to like confess that to myself, because I want to be this, high-level professional who's like working in a professional capacity at a high level and is well respected in their profession. But I also want to write. I want to write, and I want to write some more. It's like my one true love. Seriously, I just love writing so much. So yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna like put a pause and not focus on my professional career and not get these certifications. So I'm just gonna fully commit to writing for the time being. It's, you know, I don't know. I feel weird saying that, but it's like that's what I love to do, and my professional career is still going well, right? Like I'm not at risk of being fired, or I'm not gonna lose my house or anything like that. Like I'm still doing great professionally, but I just don't. I don't love my professional career enough to go the extra mile and take up my free time with getting a certification or getting another degree or anything like that. It's like I feel like I did that, and I just want to focus on writing. And ever since I made that decision like 6 days ago, I'm totally stoked. It's the happiest I've been in a long time, and I'm so stoked. And it feels like I can dedicate more time to this podcast, more time to Classic Studios, because I'm not splitting my time between, my professional career and my creative time. Like my free time was going to be split between my professional career and my creative hobbies, and now it's like screw my professional career. I'm just focusing on my creative hobbies in my spare time, right? That's a big caveat, because I still work my 40 hours a week, sometimes over. I still go into the office. I still, perform with excellence. All of that, like none of that's changing. I'm not a fool, but I do just love writing, and so in my free time, if I can, I'm gonna be writing, and that's just what it is. I'm sorry, this is what it is. I can't help myself. I'm a writer. I'm tired of hiding that. I love writing, so whatever, man. It might be a bad idea, but who cares? I can always go back, right? Like it's not like, oh, I'm quitting my job and moving to LA to become a screenwriter. It's like, no, I'm still just like writing in my spare time and doing this podcast in my spare time. So yeah, I don't think I've dumped off the deep end. It feels like I have. It feels like I'm swimming and floating right now, but I'm not. I'm still just, doing the same thing, but now it's with a renewed energy and a renewed passion, because I've given up this thing. And maybe, man, I should probably talk about this. I've been talking with my sister offline a lot about her journey right now, and what she's kind of going through she's doing a lot of research on like minimalism. And I'm familiar with the term minimalism, right? Like, oh yeah, single color outfits, like that's a minimalist outfit. Or everything's gray in your kitchen, or everything's like Tesla, right? They're a very minimalist car. There's like very sleek design. There's no extra buttons or doodads. It's just, hey, this is the car, this is what you get, and then you have the tablet with all the fancy, devices. But in principle, like the Tesla is a very minimalist car. And I know that conceptually it's like, yeah, minimalism, the best, love it. But my sister's been doing actual research into like what it is, like from a philosophical perspective, and she's been talking to me about it, so I feel like I know everything about minimalism now. I don't, but she's been talking to me about it from like a conceptual way, and using it to sort of declutter her home and make her home more manageable. And a concept that they bring up is the idea of your fantasy self. And oftentimes we keep objects that end up cluttering our home because it's reminds us of our past self, or it reminds us of this fantasy self who we want to be someday. But the facts of the matter are, or the reality is, I don't have the bandwidth to be that fantasy version of myself, or I don't have the bandwidth, or I'm just not my past self, right? I'm my present self, and I can't go backwards. Like I'm, looking at an example for myself, right? Like I used to be like a legit music producer, or let me caveat that. I'm a legit screenwriter now. I used to be a legit music producer. So like I produce music in my spare time, and I, produced a couple of albums here and there. Nothing really crazy, but I did take that very seriously. And so I purchased these giant Yamaha HS8 speakers. They're powered speakers, but they're really high quality speakers with great, bass and sound information and the great soundscape and all of that. It's just phenomenal, and like I love them to death. They have sat in my office turned off for the last like 3 years because that's not who I am anymore. I'm no longer trying to be a music producer, and like they're way too loud to listen to music casually. So it's like, why do I even have these things? Maybe I should just get rid of them because that's my past self. And like maybe in my fantasy self I have like this beautiful office with a luxurious studio that I use these Yamahas to help me, listen to music or whatever and produce songs on the side. And it's like, no shot, man. That's not me. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I'm obviously not getting rid of those. I still like them, and they're not cluttering my space. But they do represent sort of a past self that maybe I would be happier if I got rid of them. But I'm not going to do that because I'm still stubborn as a rock, as they say. But what the reason why I bring that up is because I think the fantasy of me being like a super high level senior executive at some company and selling movie scripts left and right is just kind of like a fantasy, and I need to let one of those two slide. And as much as I love my professional career, there's no way I'm giving up writing. I can't do it. I love writing too much. I would cry 1,000 times a day if I had to give it up. So no shot that is happening. Okay, tangent over. I think I kind of went a little off the rocker there for a little bit, but hopefully that made sense to somebody. Research minimalism. I don't know anything about it. My sister does. Talk to her. So that's more of like personal thoughts, like into my psyche and my realization and my thought processes of what I'm doing now and coming to terms with my screenwriting and all of that stuff. But I do want to still provide an update on my actual screenwriting, so let's just go ahead and do that. I think last time we talked, I had just sent out my script for feedback to my friends, my family, so that they could review and provide notes, and that's still sort of the same state of the screenplay. A couple of people have read it, and I've scheduled some interviews with them here and there so that I can sort of interview them and go through that review process that I talked to you all about as well. But yeah, I'm really excited. Like, I totally did not expect people to read it because, my friends and family aren't writers. They're busy people who have jobs and lives and kids to take care of and, relationships to maintain, all that stuff. And so, like, here I am throwing a 2-hour time commitment on their plate. And it's like, I wouldn't expect them to read that. Just like, I just wouldn't expect that of them. But they're the best people in the world. And I'm really grateful to have such great friends. And they've been reading it. And they've been giving me feedback and thoughts and all that stuff. And it's just so grateful, and it makes me really it's so great, and I'm really grateful that they're providing that feedback to me. And it's just because they get nothing out of this. I mean, they get to read a cool story, so I hope they get something out of it, but they don't, I'm not paying them. They're just doing that out of the kindness of their heart. And so that really means a lot to me. So shout out to you all. If you are listening to this and you read my screenplay, I really appreciate it. I know I've talked to you in person, but I really appreciate it. Seriously. Thanks, you guys. So that's pretty much the update with Touch. Nothing too crazy else going on there. I'm still, aggregating those feedback and turning it into like useful notes so that I can make this script the best as possible, and then hopefully turn it into a movie someday. We'll see. Who knows? I also, so I mentioned that I was in Arizona and hanging with my cousin. We were getting into trouble, getting into shenanigans, all of that good stuff. But, between shenanigans and shenanigans again, I did take some time to write, So even though I was on vacation, I didn't take any time off from work, but I was able to write a little bit. Not like traditional screenwriting, but I've had this idea for like a high school comedy. I've probably mentioned it on the podcast. If not, I have this idea for a high school comedy that I want to write, sort of like in the style of Superbad or Hot Rod or something like that. And so my cousin, he's been doing comedy and stuff like that, so I wanted to talk to him. I was like, yo, man, I have this premise. Like, what do you think? Let's outline a movie together. And so him and I just sort of sat down and brainstormed some stuff. We came up with some good ideas, and then I ended up just, like, outlining the script one day. So it was just like, heck yeah. So I outlined this whole new script. I just said, it was like Sweet. And so that's what I did over the past couple of weeks while I was away. I was able to outline and write, and it's awesome. It's just like I can't turn it off. I told you that. Like, yeah, I'm going to take a break from writing, but I know me and I know I'm not going to be able to turn it off. And like, boom, hit the nail on the head there, Chase. There's no way I could turn this off. So yeah, super stoked about this new outline that I have. And if you're keeping track, I now have 2 scripts that I've outlined and are ready to be written, which is, a nice place to be in. I don't have to think about what my next project is going to be. I can just pick one that I've already outlined and just go write it. So yeah, that's pretty sweet. You're probably guessing or asking yourself, like, what's next then, Chase? What's your next project going to be? And you're probably assuming that it's like, oh yeah, my next script is going to be this high school comedy, or maybe this grounded drama about the unskilled worker that I outlined, like a month or 2 ago. And you would be absolutely wrong. I actually have another screenplay idea that is getting me way more excited. So I'm really just gonna start writing that. I literally can't stop thinking about it. It's like, it's such an interesting idea. It's such an interesting story. It's so exciting, and I think it's an important script. So I'm going to, focus my time on that. I'm not going to reveal any details about it yet, but it is, based on a true story. And yeah, that's all I'm going to reveal. I've just started researching the time period that it's set in. Boom, there's another hint about it. And yeah, so I'm going to start doing research, and I'm in probably like a month or so. I'll hopefully have like a finished outline or a finished beat sheet, or maybe I'll even have started writing this sucker. So yeah, we'll see. I'm in the very early stages of development, but I seriously just cannot wait to start writing this sucker. Yeah, so that's awesome. That's what's next for me. I finally have like a clear direction. Man, my goodness, a clear direction. How empowering is that to have a clear direction? Sweet. If you don't have a clear direction, man, go find one. All right. So a secret announcement. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I have a secret announcement that I want to share, or not even an announcement. Maybe it's an accomplishment. I have a secret accomplishment that I want to share. How cool is that? Boom. I got accomplishments, and then I got secret accomplishments. Boom, baby. Gosh, I'm crazy. Anyways, yeah, okay, so this secret accomplishment. First, a little bit of backstory, right? I listen to, a couple of screenwriting podcasts, really just one, but there's a couple in my inbox. But the one that I really like the most is the Social Screenwriters podcast, hosted by Andy Compton. He is an writer-director who is, breaking into the industry. A couple of years ago, he got the quarterfinal of the Nickel, which is a pretty high value screenwriting contest to place in, and that's how he got his journey. And so I've been listening to his podcast where he interviews other screenwriters and people in the industry just to, get their story and document their journey and stuff like that. And it's really interesting. It's great. I've learned a ton of stuff, especially about like the industry behind the scenes things that like I'm way not involved with. But like, I'm just a writer. Like, oh, I love the art, I love the craft. And then you realize like, oh, there's a business and an industry behind this craft that you need to learn and love and play the game if you want to actually like do anything in the industry. So it's interesting not getting that peek behind the curtain, but at least understanding that like that's what's next. So I really, really appreciate that Social Screenwriters podcast. It's awesome. Andy is the man. But recently, a couple of weeks ago, maybe even a month ago now, he had on a producer, an Emmy-nominated producer named Nikki Weinstock on the podcast, and they revealed that there is a not secret, oh gosh, what am I talking about? There's like this writers group that Nikki Weinstock created. I think it was during the pandemic. If not, it was like around then, 2021, 2020-ish area, whatever. I don't know. Not whatever. I don't know. But yeah, so he created this writers group, and it's kind of like an exclusive thing. Like, you have to apply to it, you have to submit a sample and everything like that. And it I didn't really know what it was. I had heard they had just opened it up for applications to the public before it was like invite only, because Nikki would go to his I believe he would go to his like professors that he knew in like the film school area, and would say like, hey, who's your top talent? I want to incorporate them into my writers group. And that's how you could get involved. And now they just opened it up to the public. And so, I had just finished writing Touch, and I had this, what I thought was a decent sample. So I was like, all right, whatever, I'll apply. Let me apply. And so I went to the website and I applied for it. And it's called Craft Services. I don't know if I said that yet, but yeah, Craft Services. I applied and I found out that I got in. So I'm like just really excited about that too. So that's a big accomplishment for me. Just getting in, I feel like, is a huge deal. So that I'm just so stoked about. I cannot believe, like, I was fully expecting to get rejected and to be like, yep, that makes sense. I wasn't going to stop doing the podcast or writing or anything like that, but it's like, yeah, I wouldn't accept me either. I don't know shit about writing podcasts, or writing screenplays or hosting podcasts or censoring myself when I speak. But I was just so grateful and excited that they accepted me. I actually got accepted the day I was flying to Arizona, and then I was on vacation. So I was like, oh, I don't have time to figure out what's going on with this thing yet. But the second I got back on Sunday, that Monday, I dove into what Craft Services was and what it is and what I can do for it, or what it can do for me, and how I can become like an active member. And so I just like totally have sunk my teeth in. And on Friday, I was able to attend my first writer's workshop, and that was incredible. I provided feedback on this horror flick, which was great. It was just so much fun. Like, everything I wanted from like a writer's room or a writer's workshop, a writer's group, excuse me. It was just so exciting and so motivating. And then in addition to writer's workshops, they also have industry talk, where you can speak to folks in the industry. And it's like another peek behind the curtain in addition to that Social Screenwriters podcast. And so I'm just like over the moon that I was able to get in and start participating, and I'm making friends already, I feel like. And it's just everything I've wanted for the last like year or so, or at least the last 6 months. I've really been feeling like I've wanted to level up. I've really wanted to just start working with writers who are on the same like level of professionalism as I am. Not that I'm a professional, right? I've never been paid for my writing or anything like that, but I take myself seriously. I treat myself as if I was a professional. I carry myself as if I were a professional, because that's my goal. That's who I want to be. I'm not a child. I'm not in high school. I'm someone who understands how business works, who understands how industry works, who has been around the block for a couple of years, not in this industry, but in other industries. And business is business. Like, everything's just, all of these things are the same, whether you're working for a studio production company or you're working for a government contracting company. Like, they're all just companies who are there to make money. And so you have to understand that that's the game you're playing. And that I do understand that. And so I'm ready to work with people who also understand that and are able to take their writing seriously and are able to separate themselves from the art in order to push themselves to that next level. And so that's what I've been yearning for the last like 6 months, maybe a year. I've really felt like I need to start associating myself with those types of people. And of course, like I've started this podcast. I started CLSC Studios. I want to get involved in the Florida film scene. Of course, there's this strike going on right now. There's a writer strike. There's an actor strike. There's all these strikes. And I don't, maybe I'm being a baby and I don't know how to, make those types of connections in person. But this group of people, this screenwriting craft services writers group, it just feels like this is exactly what I've been wanting. And I seriously, like, I couldn't help but start tearing up when I was in the middle of some of these Zoom calls, because it's like, wow, this is everything that I wanted. Like, and of course I totally made a fool of myself a couple of times, just like showing how big of an amateur I actually am. But it's like, whatever, man, I can't control myself. I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. And I don't know what I don't know, and if I make a fool of myself, that's what happens, man. But whatever, I'm learning, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm excited, I'm so motivated, I can't wait. I'm just so happy, I'm so pumped, I'm so excited. So yeah, that was sort of like a mini accomplishment, I guess, is that I got into this writers group that's pretty exclusive. So I'm really happy about that. And like, also, I don't know how exclusive it is, right? I know it was, closed off for a really long time. I know they just opened it to the public a couple of weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago. But odds are, odds are, like, maybe they opened it up and, like, everyone who applied within this certain time frame just got in because they applied. And maybe that was the case, and I just happened to get in. But I'm still lucky, and I don't take this opportunity for granted. I'm certainly going to give it everything that I can. I'm gonna put everything into it, and hopefully I can get a little bit back. I would just be so happy. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. That's what I've been up to these last couple of weeks, y'all. I hope you've been working on stuff as well. I hope you all have been setting your goals. I'm gonna roll this transition music, and then we can go to the outro. All right, thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. I know I was getting sort of passionate out there and maybe getting a little sappy, and I don't mean to, but sometimes I'm a sappy guy. What can I say? Whatever. Don't judge me. I'll judge you right back. I don't know what I'm saying. Whatever. Anyways, I do want to give a shout out to Green Bean for all of our musical themes and musical intros and outros. I want to give a shout out to you, the listener, for listening to me ramble for 30 minutes at a time every week. It's like, if you're not listening, what's the point, right? But yeah, I'm so grateful for you all for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for leaving 5-star reviews. If you do have a 5-star review you want to leave it, baby, and I will certainly read it out on the podcast. I want to thank everyone again for listening, and be sure to check out CLSCstudios.com for exclusive updates. There's exciting stuff on the horizon, y'all. I can't talk about it just yet, but there's exciting stuff on the horizon. All right. Goodbye, everyone. I hope you achieve your goals this week, and I will see you Monday for another episode of the Improve Podcast. Goodbye.